Good evening, everybody. My name is Wes Barrow. Pleasure to be with you this evening. I'm the Virginia Tech recruiting lead. Um, I've been with the firm since 2008, but I've been recruiting Hokies since 2000. So I would love to be in Blacksburg with y'all right now. Unfortunately, due to these circumstances, it's the virtual show for at least this semester. So yeah, I think today we're going to talk about, basically the winning virtual interview, how to prepare for these upcoming events, how to showcase yourself virtually. We do have a chat. So if you have any questions, go to the chat, feel free to write something, and would be happy to answer that question. Before we get started, I know we can't have time for, everyone to introduce themselves, but go to the chat, tell me where everybody is from in terms of location. I know you're all in Blacksburg, but where's your hometowns? Ooh, Covington, Virginia. I've been to Covington. Chester, I live in Chesterfield. Roanoke, yeah. New Jersey. Maryland, I hear you. All right, all right. Burke, Virginia. Philly. Eagles fan, huh? Ugh. Norfolk. Excellent. Virginia Beach. Well, good stuff. Good stuff. I think I have a few colleagues will be joining a little bit late. So when they come in, we'll have them introduce themselves as well. But we find ourselves in these particular times. We This past summer, we actually had a 5-week summer internship, and so we got used to the virtual environment, through team meetings, through client serving meetings, and so we've been used to utilizing this technology and communicating in this particular perspective. So I'm going to go through a few slides. Feel free to throw something on the chat, and or come off mute. Okay. All right. So, why are these virtual interviews, a good thing? They're obviously very, very convenient. The flexibility for us. A lot of our colleagues throughout the Northeast, our particular team is Virginia to Boston. What's up, Jordan? You're on?
I was on mute. Hey, Wes.
I'm doing well, doing well. Why don't you take a second to introduce yourself?
All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Jordan Dodona. I'm a real estate partner in the assurance practice up in Tysons, Virginia. I'm an 06 Hokie. I was a finance undergrad. I was a member of the Corps of Cadets while I was there as well, and really excited to be here and talk about this. This is one of my favorite topics, the candidate interviews, getting a chance to know everybody, and really excited to talk through this process with everyone tonight.
Appreciate that, Jordan. Yeah, so from a candidate perspective, I mean, they're very flexible. We do ask that you dress appropriately for these types of virtual interviews. So basically at the firm, what that means for us is business casual. So if you want to wear a tie, you're more than welcome to, but don't feel obligated to do so. It presents a consistent and fair process. We really found that this particular perspective in the evaluation process allows for that speed to hire. So essentially, once you drop your resume for one of our job roles, you're going to go into a process that's literally going to take about 7 to 10 days from the application to the offer process. And then, this will give you an opportunity to showcase your best self. It allows you to tell us stories. We like to hear stories on teamwork, challenge, leadership, some adversity you've gone through. These are all perspectives that we see every single day at the firm. We're a big teaming organization. So about 90% of the time you're going to be on teams. So continue to, do a good job while you're on campus in that perspective. gives you an opportunity to showcase your personality, the skills you've learned, and then some of the experiences that you've had in the past. So, we would ask you to consider a company who really values this innovative approach, and likes to use this type of technology within the evaluation process. From an employer perspective, this evaluation process allows us to consistently evaluate all candidates on those perspectives. Really gets us to know the individual beyond just their resume. That's why we encourage you to go to many recruiting events that are sponsored by Pamplin. It's a good idea to partner up with any student organizations that you may be affiliated with, as it pertains to skill sets, cultures, things of that nature, because a firm like ours and others, we partner up with these student orgs. So it gives you an opportunity to network with us, to build your resume, and things of that nature. From an employer perspective as well, it allows us to cut down time and expense. Blacksburg, the nearest office is Richmond, so it's about a 4-hour drive for us. 3 on a good day, and then coming from Tyson's, a little bit further. So it allows us to get a ton of interviews done, in a short period of time and get you through the evaluation process. I really believe that next semester will probably be in this virtual format again, but I truly believe that we're going to be back on campus, pending what the schools say for their protocols in the fall of 21 season. So I think we'll continue to do, somewhat of a hybrid scenario where we're basically on campus for about 4 to 5 weeks, and then we go straight to this evaluation process virtually. So, basically you attend an event, you apply with EY, we review your application. We send you an email for a pre-recorded video interview. That's an opportunity and an evaluation that's based, like I said before, about 5 to 7 questions: teamwork, challenge and adversity, leadership, come to the table with stories. Upon successful completion of that, we'll then set you up with a live video interview. And if you're going into the audit practice or the tax practice, that will consist of 2 behavioral-based interviews, about 30 minutes apiece. And then if you decide to go into our consulting practice, that'll be coupled with a case study interview. So we'll give you something that's been historical for us. We obviously changed the names for privacy, but we give a real life, client scenario, XYZ Corp, 123 Corp. And, we ask you to evaluate the scenario, come with a strategic mindset, and then, give us your answers. So there's really no right or wrong answer of what we're looking for. We're, specifically looking for what type of strategy do you put behind that particular scenario. Once you complete that, we send you an offer and we invite you to a celebratory event. Historically, this has been, a nice invite into one of our markets for the celebration day to meet with leadership, to learn about the firm in general, to learn about the culture, all the activities that we do inside of the firm and outside of the firm. We can still do that. Obviously we're doing it virtually now. And then hopefully, once you've made it through that process, we give you typically about a month to decide if you'd like to join us or not. We want you to go meet with the other firms as well and give you time, to go through that process. And then once you become educated on our firm and the other firms, and you can make a solid decision for yourself. Any questions? Feel free to come off mute, go through the chat. Madison, I love the background. I wish I was there.
Me too.
We have a good year this year. Has anybody ever been through a process like this? This will be our third official season going through this evaluation process. Sure. So Joe, the live video interview, it's behavioral in nature. So it could be, tell me about a time where you had an opportunity to lead a team. So what does that look like? Was it a group project? Was it an internship and you got selected to be the leader for that particular project? Things of that nature. And then in terms of the case study is a real life example where we put certain scenarios in the overall scenario for you to pick up on. So it involves a lot of critical thinking and analysis. Again, there's really no right or wrong answer. We just want to really feel, create the scenario where it's you have to come up with a solution on the fly and you have to put a strategic mindset to it. Jordan, would you like to add anything, in terms of your experiences as an evaluator?
No, I think that's right. I think it'll depend on the type of interview you get is depending on the position, right? So as Wes mentioned, assurance and tax, it's the behavioral nature. So you'd be asked, and we'll cover this here in a second, 5 to 7 questions to record. There you go, perfect. And so, for the behavioral interview, those will be just as Wes mentioned, focused on leadership activities, learning activities, teaming, things that are important and critical to what we do at the firm. I'll speak specifically for the assurance practice. It's things that we do all the time. And so there's a couple things we'll talk about here on this slide that'll be important. And so, well, there's a question here from Julie. Let me just jump to this. What do you do in cases where you're through the process, but you lose communication with the recruiter? All right, we'll take those. We'll take those, Wes, maybe here in a little bit.
Sure.
Those are probably more specific things. Julie, if you lose communication with your recruiter, you can shoot Wes and myself a note, and we'll get you connected to the right people going forward. And then, so with respect to the pre-recorded interview, you see on here 5 to 7 questions. You'll get 3 attempts. And it's there are 3 3 minutes to respond to each one. The important point, and I will say we do see this unfortunately from time to time, is if you record on another attempt, it doesn't save the previous versions. And so we'll go through here in a few minutes, a few slides, some best practices on how to prepare and how to go through the motions. But we'll get to it here in a second. Be genuine. Try to be as positive and as engaging as you can. Imagine that you're sitting across from somebody in real life and you're talking to them and you're having a conversation with them. Try your best to be engaging, and it's a balance between being engaging and being too rehearsed, and versus trying to read off note cards and things like that. So make sure you're practicing just like you would for any other interview. It's no different. The benefit is if you don't like what you did just then, you can always re-record. Just know that you're not going to have saved the other one. If you're like me, sometimes you get in your own head and you think the previous one was better. Wes, you got anything else to add on that slide?
Yeah, I would just say, consider the baseball approach. You get 3 strikes. Use the one for practice, use the one for a mess up, and then it's the real deal. You're batting with 2 strikes, man on second and third, and you're down by 1. So, yeah, like Jordan said, try to be as natural as possible. We do realize that it's pretty interesting to talk into a little small hole at the top of your computer screen. So just be as natural as possible. Try to focus on setting the example, talking about strategies that you implement within that example, and then a final result. And if you can do that, then you've successfully completed the answer to the question. So let's see what we got next. Yeah, so plan on taking about 45 to complete the entire video interview. Don't worry if you decide to take all 3 attempts, every single question. We do not see that on our end, nor would that really matter for us. Every video is going to be reviewed either by myself or one of my colleagues on the client serving team. And that's usually pending what service line that you go to. We actually, the majority of the time I try to get Virginia Tech Hokies lined up with Virginia Tech PRVIs. But sometimes, the UVA folks want to evaluate y'all and y'all want to evaluate UVA. So it goes both ways, right? But just remember, at the end of the day, we want you to be successful in this process. We realize it's a little different. So I think, your worst critic can often be yourself. So, keep a good attitude when you come into this process, smile a lot, tell good stories, and you should be just fine. All right. So here's some questions to consider, that we've gone over before. So, technology, sometimes it does go wrong. I wouldn't freak out about it. Like Jordan said, I'm the main recruiter. So if something does happen, I'll leave my email, send me an email, shoot me a text, we'll correct it. How do I know whether I'm answering the questions with the response you're intending? The questions are pretty self-explanatory, so I think you'll be good to go on that. In terms of what you should wear, like I said, you can, for the interviews, I wouldn't go anything less than business casual. But for the interviews, if you want to wear business professional, we're not going to hate on that either, because, we're going to be like, all right, well, that's a professional look. This is an interview. So, it might not be a bad idea as well. Yeah,
I'd say you're never going to go wrong defaulting to too dressed up, right? If you were going to interview with us on campus or interview with us in person, what would you have worn to that? It's no different. The only difference is you're looking at a camera. I could tell you that the person on the other side of this camera is wearing business casual 98% of the time to work. Maybe on a day where they're working from home, they're wearing a t-shirt. But yeah, I would default. There's nothing wrong with defaulting to too dressed up. There's no such thing. It shows, right? It shows that you're taking it with sincerity, and you're being professional. So if there's this is a great question about backgrounds. Take it as seriously as you would an in-person interview. I'm sure all of your interviews are going to be remote regardless, for the majority of things this year. Be respectful, be positive, be cognizant of what's behind you, right? If it's a pre-recorded video interview and you've got some stuff in there that you might not be proud of, go on the blur focus. I would basically default to as neutral a background as you can, to avoid there being any sort of distraction from the interviewer, to take the focus off of you. You're the show, right? You're the main reason the person reviewing the responses is there. So ensure that all the focus is on you for all the right reasons. Wes hit on it. When you're answering the questions, beginning, middle, end, right? Scenario, outcome, any learnings that you had from it, right? What happened? What did you do to learn from it? What did you do to correct it? And what did you do going forward? Those type of things, right? Beginning, middle, end. You do see some people sometimes get a little bit tripped up over tangents or go on things that aren't maybe quite as relevant. You don't need to use all 3 minutes to answer the question. If you've got a really tight story that you think answers the question, go for it. If it's 45 seconds, fine. If it answers the question, it's not gonna matter to the reviewer. So.
Yeah, Madison, just to, clarify, something like Lane Stadium, completely appropriate. So, probably a good icebreaker, especially if you're recruiting, you're doing the interview with an alum. So no worries on that.
Thank you.
All right. All right, some do's and don'ts. So be genuine, show us your true self, focus on the content of your responses, dress like you would for an in-person interview, try to minimize the distractions. Jordan, you were right on key with all of these. Yeah, and basically, if needed, try doing some mock video interviews. No one's going to be perfect in this scenario. We completely realize that. But the more time you do this, you're in this type of format, the more natural it becomes. Jordan, I don't want to speak for you, but I know, when we went to the Zoom format, it was kind of interesting, doing the video, because we were just so used to doing calls, and that's all they were. They were calls. And then when this particular scenario hit, we added in the video, and it took about a week to get used to, but now it's completely natural. So the same thing with this. The more you do it, the more natural it becomes.
Yep. There's a point on there about not looking at yourself in the Zoom call. I'm terrible about that. I'm doing it as I'm saying it. So make sure you're staring right in the dead center of the screen or at your computer camera. Obviously no one's gonna be perfect, as Wes said, but it's gonna be a little bit more challenging if or if you've got two monitors set up like I've got at my house. Make sure that the monitor you're using with the camera is the one you're looking at. You don't want to be talking off to a screen this direction and the camera's only seeing you kind of side profile.
Good stuff. Let's see, these are pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
Utilize the earbuds to reduce that background noise.
Oh, I skipped ahead there. That second bullet.
There you go. Look at the camera. Yeah, that's somewhat hard too, because you do kind of want to look at yourself because the screen is so big. Try to look at the light, make good eye contact, and just like I said before, get comfortable with the technology. Do some practice runs, and then go for it. Yeah. Since we've been doing this 3 seasons, I've never seen someone completely bomb this. So I think y'all will be good. Chrome recommended, so it doesn't, the technology doesn't slip up.
Yeah, the only other thing I would ask the group is be flexible and be ready. Right, the person on the other phone, especially for the live interview, the person on the other end may be experiencing technical challenges just the same way you might. So if you're going to go sit down for the live interview, have your cell phone there ready. It has happened on a couple of occasions where something happens from a technology standpoint and we're not able to hear one another. And so I'll call the candidate on their phone. Again, we really try to minimize those things, but just be, as the live interview thing happens, let's just be flexible and roll with the punches. It's also a helpful kind of, evaluation of you as a person and as a candidate. So hopefully we're not in that situation. Your technology works, your earbuds are great, and the other person's are as well. But there may be opportunities for those things to happen. So just ask for your flexibility there.
Yeah. Falcon, if you want to use headphones, that have a bar that go over the head, I mean, that's completely fine. So any type of technology, wouldn't take that literally that they have to be earbuds. Anything. For me, I don't use them, because it's quiet during the day. I don't have any distractions. So I'm able to use them. At nighttime, that's probably a different story. I've got a 2-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 16-year-old. So luckily, 2 of them are outside right now. So
Yep. I don't KIP Kip. I'm not sure if it's all one word, but the AirPods, like I'm using AirPods now. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, so I need to block out all the background noise in my house. So no worries on AirPods. I bet you'd find most of the people interviewing you for live will be wearing something.
you know, practice, practice, practice. Look prepared. Some of the don'ts. Don't wait until the deadline to complete the pre-recorded video interview. You don't want to be rushed. Don't rehearse it. Don't be a robot. We definitely don't want that type of scriptural feedback. Yep. Nice, quiet, peaceful place. Yep. So, I've seen some people go 30 seconds and they answer the, question completely. I've seen some people go, well over a minute and they finally get to it. So, again, this is why the practice really comes into play. Yeah, don't rearrange your apartment furniture, to create the perfect setting. But there's no perfect setting. Just make sure, like Jordan said before, it's, professional, and you should be good to go. But don't rearrange your apartment for that. I don't think you have to wear a suit. You don't have to do the perfect response. Yeah, don't forget the body language. I mean, I'm guilty of this. I'll slouch a lot. So I gotta get my yoga pose on and get straight up and down.
There've been a couple of questions about majors for internships. We'll handle that here. We'll handle that here at the end. We'll go through the virtual interview, but the short answer is there are where you can apply for us with certain majors is dictate, certain majors dictate where service line you would be able to apply to. But I think, Wes can kind of clarify that here at the end.
Yeah.
So we'll get to that one then.
Yeah. This is an important one. Just remember, like, the interview process, this is why it's so important to join student orgs and to, come to our recruiting events so you can, develop the relationship with us, start to network. But the interview it's not the only evaluation, and we've met you numerous times. Even on the resume, it's not all about GPA, variety of things. So if you can become the best, well-rounded version of yourself, in terms of your academics and your leadership qualities, it's really what we're looking for. And we love those who have a strong attitude and an even stronger work ethic. So, the Hokies, they do very well at a firm like ours. All right, so we'll go to the chat for some of these questions. Let's see here.